Hello, and welcome back to the SPIRE Podcast. Today is currently before Lent. However, when you are listening to this, because time is weird, it will be after Lent has started. And so we're going to be discussing today about Lenten practices, what Lent is, what it means to us, and, how to go about going through Lent and failing at Lenten things, and then coming back from that. So, to start us off, one of you had a question?
It was not me.
Okay. So, here's my question for you two. Let's say I walk up off the street and I'm a random guy and I'm like, what are you doing this Wednesday? And you're like, well, I'm going to church and I'm going to get ashes put on my head. And then I'm going to spend 40 days not doing stuff I normally will do. And then I'm going to celebrate Easter. And I say, what is that? And why do you do that?
Okay, so this is a hypothetical scenario where someone's like, hey, what is Lent?
For me,
Basically.
the guy off the street, this is not hypothetical. What is Lent? I don't know.
Okay. All right.
Are you the guy off
We're
the
in
street?
a post-Christian age. I don't know.
Are you the
Yeah.
guy off the street?
Yeah.
You're him? Okay.
You have no idea what
Makes
Lent
sense.
is.
Fulton
I
is
Lent
know.
is an- it's an
I
acronym.
Lent, I
L
get Lent all over my
for
laundry
Lord.
and I pick it out of my belly button sometimes. And what?
It's spelled with an E, not an I. Anyway, Michael, you want to answer that?
Lent?
No. Like,
No, yeah, I get it.
okay.
I was like, let's just answer the question. Come on.
Oh, the chaos. All right. So
Basically, why do you do Lent? Why do you actually do it? Do you just do it because you're Catholic? What is the point of it? How long have you done it and it's been your decision? What do you really, what's the purpose? What do you get out of
that's like 6 questions, but
Yeah.
I'll go with this
Pick
man
the one in the middle.
on the street scenario. So I presume that a man on the street that doesn't know much about Lent would not be an expert in Catholicism or whatnot. And so what I would basically just say that Easter is the biggest feast day of the Catholic year. It is the day where we celebrate the conquering of death, the day where we celebrate the greatest thing that has ever happened on earth. And because we celebrate that so much, we prepare ourselves to receive him on Easter. And we prepare ourselves, historically it's 40 days, there's traditions and what that make it 40 days. But we prepare our hearts to receive Christ on Easter. And we do that in a couple of different ways, one of which is recognizing that while we are we are in the world but not of the world, so we restrict some of our worldly pleasures, our worldly things, so that we can understand that these things of the world do not define us. We also focus on relationships with people and prayer and understanding that there is more to this world than just the physical gifts of this world. And lastly, almsgiving, which is to love one another and share one's self with another in a pretty physical way, whether or not it be through giving money to the poor or spending time with the lonely, etc., etc. And so these 40 days are days where we prepare our hearts, our minds, our bodies, our souls, our whole experience to celebrate the greatest gift that has been given to humankind. And you may not understand what Easter is or all of that, but that is what we are doing.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to give a little bit.
You guys are crazy. I'm going back now.
I'm going to give a little bit less of a theological answer so that I don't scare you off. I'm not going to go into all that because I think from a very practical standpoint, for me, genuinely, I think this will be the first Lent of my entire life where I take it as seriously as I actually need to. And it's not even just because I'm approaching Lent differently as much as it's just like I'm approaching my entire life kind of differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I would say, and you guys can disagree with me on this, I think that Lent, I think the timing of it is to prepare us for Easter. But I think that it's meant as kind of an example of the way that we should approach our lives all year round. Because I think there's a lot of things, like how do I say this? Like, what's the best way to say this? I feel like a lot of people approach Lent like, oh my gosh, it's Lent. I have to give up this thing. I can't eat chocolate. I can't.
So depressing.
Whatever it is that you give up. And you're like, I can't do any of these things, and it's so annoying, and I'm going in. And, like, it should hurt a little bit. Like, it should, you should definitely kind of feel the effects of it as far as missing out on things that you want to be enjoying. But I feel like for me, it's kind of like, just because of kind of the mindset shift that I've had kind of over the last year or whatever, I feel like I'm now at the point where I'm almost like I get to do Lent this year. And I don't want to say it'll be easier, but it kind of will be, just because I'm already in the mindset of like, I'm trying to work on myself and I'm trying to constantly prepare myself as much as I can. I fail at that all the time. There are days when I suck at it so bad that people are like, what are you even doing? But that doesn't mean that I'm not working on it. And so I would say that Lent is like, it's almost like a formalized example of the way that you should prepare yourself for Christ throughout your entire life. And it's crammed into this 40-day period to prepare you for the celebration of what is the most important event in human history. Like, it's at that time for that reason, but I think that it is just to be an example. And like, there's things like if you receive communion only once a year, it's supposed to be during Lent. And if you go to confession only once a year, it's supposed to be during Lent. And there's things like that. Again, because I think that it's all crammed into this preparation for that day, but I think it's an example of how you should prepare yourself throughout your life.
Okay.
For the eventual.
Okay.
Kind of.
So I'll take a break from being Bill off the street.
Okay.
Bye,
Bill.
Me. So there were a couple thoughts that I had from what both you guys said. One of the biggest things that sticks out to me about Lent is we're preparing to celebrate a feast day. And so feast is the key word. And this is stuff that I've learned from Theology of the Body and Christopher West. But before a feast, you fast to enjoy the feast more. Mm-hmm. And so, and then that would play into what you said, where it should hurt a little bit. And I've kind of always looked at Lent in that same way of, okay, I have to basically pick my favorite thing and just give that up. But that was pretty miserable. I didn't like it. Mm-hmm. It was more of, last year I tried to take it very seriously, and I would say I was kind of a jerk. Like, I was kind of stuck up, and like, I was like, oh, I'm giving up this. And I would kind of like poke at people, be like, oh, you're just doing that. No. I was completely missing the point. And I think the point is very clearly, really, Lent is supposed to increase charity, not make you a worse person. But something that just struck me when you said it's supposed to hurt a little bit. I think the reason is it's not supposed to hurt just so that it hurts, so you prove that you'll hurt yourself for God. But I think if it hurts, it's a sign that you are learning to point your appetites towards different things.
It's like growing pains, basically.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
I would say learning pains would be basically a good way of putting it too.
So the headaches I get when I do my homework.
Learning pains.
Something like
learning
that.
pains.
Yeah. Because I think when you're really to enjoy the feast, which is celebrating the biggest event that happened in history, which basically is the reason we're all so excited about Jesus, is because now when we die, we don't stay dead. Mm-hmm. That's sort of the whole pitch of why Jesus came. And so we're pretty excited about that.
To sum it up, yeah.
Yeah. And so and then a reflection, like you were saying, Michael, how everything is it's kind of on a smaller scale to represent the bigger one. Mm-hmm. Ooh. To represent
the bigger voice crack.
because ultimately this time on earth is a fast before the feast.
Yeah.
And so if you gorge yourself on worldly things, you never learn to have the appetite, like call back to the prayer episode, the appetite for things in heaven. Because you're so satisfied with what's on earth, which ultimately is never really fulfilling. But then Lent is a focused time to say, okay, now before this feast day, we're going to imitate Jesus in a way with the 40. You could talk about that later, Nick. You know more about that than I do.
Not that much.
Well, I mean, more.
We'll see.
More
We'll
than
see.
me.
We'll see.
And so you, at least what I think I'm realizing Lent is taking the time to say, okay, where do I direct? Like the cross to me would be not going to this thing to make myself feel better, but to go to this thing to make myself feel better. And this thing's eternal. And so I have to learn how this thing is what I really want, even though my body and my inclinations and my addictions point me towards this thing. And so it's painful just because I have to turn away from that and turn towards something else that holds the promise of this is life after death. That's why you want to learn that this is the biggest thing. And so it's not that I hate these things or they're bad for me. It's just that there's an opportunity where I can learn to turn towards the things that won't go away. And then that's where I can find my life, or the things that will never leave me still thirsty or leave me still hungry. And so I've never really thought about that, but those are two of the things that I picked out from what you guys said.
The other thing that you just said about like how sometimes you'd be kind of a jerk about it to other people, and it's like, I'm giving up this, and like, you're just giving up chocolate or whatever. It's like you're giving up chocolate and I'm like not going to Starbucks anymore. So like whatever. But like that's not, it shouldn't be something that I've talked to my mom about this a couple times, where it's like it shouldn't be something where giving it up makes you a worse version of yourself. And so honestly, like, and again, we'll talk about all of this as we keep going, but like it doesn't, you don't have to just give something up just for the sake of giving something up. And if giving up a specific thing isn't actually going to help you grow in any way, then like I don't know if there's really any practical benefit to it. Okay. If it's going to just make you miserable and make you a pain to be around for everybody else. Because I think the entire purpose, it's redirecting your attention, like Fulton was saying, but it's also just, again, preparation. And the preparation is a process of making yourself better. And so if you're making yourself worse through this process, and then it's like you get to the end and you just like go back to exactly as it was before, like that's probably, if it's making you miserable, it's probably exactly what you're going to do. If it's making you miserable and you're just angry about it the whole time, and you get to Easter Monday, the day after, you're just going to start eating the candy again. If you haven't actually grown from it, then...
That's a really interesting thing.
Yeah.
That actually plays into the whole idea behind chastity is not abstinence. So when you're preparing for marriage, it's like, okay, I can't, like, and Christopher West talks a lot about this, is that if you're like, I'll chain myself to this tree, you chain yourself to that tree, and we won't do anything, we won't touch, we're not even going to risk it. And then on our wedding night, it's like the chains get released. It's like, and that's not love. And so he's saying that chastity is learning that the fast comes before the feast. So you learn to redirect your desires and your appetites to be coursed through love. Yeah. And then that's the same. I lost what I was going to say, but that's the same.
I get what you're saying.
It's the same concept. Yeah. So I have some things to say because you guys have made me think of a couple of different things. One is this idea of, Lent just makes me an annoying person, just frustrating, or like a jerk to just say, hey, I'm doing this. Are you giving up, hot showers for Lent? I don't think so. It's like that's not it. I could find it in the Bible where Jesus says, if you fast, do not fast like the hypocrites who clothe themselves in black clothes and walk through the city moaning and groaning, so everyone knows that they are the ones who are giving up things. Rather, when you fast in secret. Wash your face, give yourself a presentable appearance. I've sometimes pushed a little too far in the opposite direction of like, oh no, I can't do that. So I'm not going to let anyone ever know what I'm doing for Lent. I'm not going to let anyone ever know my prayer life. I'm not going to share anything about me, because if anyone knows about that's me being prideful. And I've learned that it's a happy middle ground there, where like you can talk about what you're, giving up for Lent or this stuff, but you don't lord it over someone. You don't be like, you're not doing good enough in Lent. I'm doing better than you. Well, if you say that, then you probably have something wrong with your mentality. When what you were saying about, and then after you finish Lent, you just go back to the candy. That's something that's actually, stuck with me. I'm trying to remember where I heard it from, but, when you put on your Lenten observances, it's not supposed to just end at the end of Lent. Obviously, like the specific observance, like you don't have to follow through that afterwards, but it is supposed to like change your heart in some way, and you can carry on with it. So if you spend Lent giving up candy or chocolate, then afterwards you could be like, okay, I now understand that I don't need chocolate to live, but I appreciate the good of chocolate, so I'll have some chocolate. But I won't gorge myself on chocolate.
Yeah, that's exactly what I lost my train of thought. But the whole idea behind chastity is that you're having and we were just learning about this at the Theology of the Body, you're having your entire perception of the world and your heart changed to where it's not like I have to stop doing this and I have to do, it's all legalistic of no, don't do that, and yes, do this, where it's black and white. It's learning to have your entire being transformed so that you don't desire to gorge yourself on chocolate. That's what the whole problem is. And so when you realize, man, I get angry and mad when I don't have this, that is just to say, hey, look, there's some work in your heart that needs to go on, because there's such an attachment to these things. And so the answer is not just, okay, well, I'm just not going to do it, and I'm going to force myself to get used to not doing it. Because that's just, in C.S. Lewis's book, Screw Tape Letters, one of the things that stuck out is the devil was thinking, and he's like, oh, we want them to try to make themselves feel peace instead of praying for it. We want them to try to make themselves disciplined instead of praying for it. And that was a trap that I think I would always fall into. It's like, I have to make myself do this. Like Lent, I'm sure some Catholic slogan somewhere said this, but Lent is not a self-help program. It's just like a self-awareness program, I think. Okay. And so one thing I learned was that you can't do Lent and you will not get the benefits out of it if you don't have love. Like, if you don't have an experience of love, you're going to be doing it for the wrong reasons, and you're going to be miserable doing it. And so what's most important is a relationship with Jesus where you know that he's real and you know that he's physically present with you all the time. And as you grow in that, the reasons for why you want to learn to turn away from certain things is to have a more complete picture of what's really going on and what's real life. Now, I think what's good for like little kids who can't really comprehend that, it's like, okay, you got to learn to give this up. I think that can teach a sort of
mental discipline,
elemental discipline of I can learn to control myself, and I can learn these things, and it's a sort of humility in training your body in that sense. But it's not for the sake of just training your body, but it's all to support love, and that was what I never really grasped until more recently. So. We'll see how it goes, though. I don't know.
That's a good thing. I like the way you said that Lent is not a self-help program, which is what I think a lot of people view it as. It's like, okay, Lent is coming up. I have this vice. I struggle with this thing. I want to get better at that thing. So I'm going to make my observance be not eat food, so thus I don't have my gluttony vice. I'm going to do this, so I don't have that, and I'm going to do this, and so I'm going to, at the end of Lent, be a better person.
Right.
Which is like, to an aspect, that's good. But if you have a vice, don't wait for Lent. Fix it. If you have this or that, like, don't wait to become a better person. Do it now. So, like, Lent is not a self-help program. Like, do things that make you a better person, but that is not the reason why we're doing Lent. We're not doing Lent to be like, so now that I am no longer a slave to those things in the future, we're doing Lent for a different reason. So I I'd ask a question. Why do we fast during Lent? I think you were answering some of this, but like, let's focus on this question. It's like, why is fasting one of the 3 facets of a time of penance?
Really quick before we answer that question, I think that's like you said a second ago. Why are you waiting? Like, don't wait until Lent to make yourself a better person. That's kind of what I was getting at earlier with like, you should be working on yourself and doing the preparation, everything during Lent, but it should not be restricted to Lent. And that's the things you do during Lent. Once you do them during Lent, it should be extended to the rest of your life, and it should be an example of how you.
I have a question. So when you guys say make yourself a better person or fix it, what exactly
I guess
are you
that's
saying?
probably not the right like terminology to use. I get because that makes it sound like a self-help program. I'm trying to think of a better way to say it, because it is about, like you're saying, growing in love and opening yourself up more, because that is what it is. I'm just trying to think, like, I can't think of the right phraseology.
Does
to
it
use
help
for
to
that.
think of it as a terms of self-awareness?
I think a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to be like,
Yeah. So the way you were describing with self-awareness does very like much resonate, because the way I'd answer like what is fasting, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can view it in the sense of I am gonna not eat as much food this Lent so that I can lose weight. But then you're doing it so you lose weight, not for God. And so like it's good to do stuff like that. And it's like, and Lent can be a good time to do that. But if all of your Lenten observances are for some worldly good, then you're missing the point. Have some like Lenten observance that is there just for the sole purpose of trusting God in some way. In Genesis, when God tells Abraham to sacrifice his son, that God said to Abraham would bring him a multitude of nations, whose descendants would be as numerous as the stars of the sea. That is, in a sense, like what Abraham was doing there was a fast. He was going to kill Isaac as a fast. I mean, because God told him that.
Okay.
So he was going to do it as a fast. And the reasoning wasn't, so that I'd be a better person or this or that, because it's not.
oh, I think I see where you're going with
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never thought about that.
But rather, it's a form of trust, because
Oh,
God
wow, yeah,
said
yeah, that's really good.
that God promised to Abraham that he would make a multitude of nations out of Isaac.
Wow.
And then God asked Abraham to kill Isaac. God can't lie. So Abraham, being a good and faithful man, had to have connected the dots and been like, if God is going to make a multitude of nations out of Isaac, and if I have to kill Isaac, then I trust that God knows what he's doing, because he even has the power to raise a son from the dead. I got it from Bible in a Year from Mike Schmitz.
Yeah.
But like, fasting is not just to be better. It's sometimes to give something up, to trust that God can do it. A number of people, it's like one of the Exodus things is, cold showers. And you could be like, oh, cold showers increases your metabolic rate. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, sure. But you don't really think of it that way. You don't think of like, I'm doing a cold shower to be a better person. It's a way to like hone discipline, sure. But like, at some extent, it's a giving up of some good of this world in an awareness of yourself, so that you know that you're not necessary. You don't need the joys of a warm, comfortable shower to survive. It's an awareness of that you don't need that. And also to trust God, that's like, God will provide where the heat of this water will fail.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about the whole time you've been talking. So I guess maybe the way I would approach it would be, if you're giving something up, you can give up whatever you want, but the way that you should think about it, if you're giving it up, is I'm giving this up because I trust that God will satisfy the desire that I'm trying to fulfill with this thing.
Unconsciously almost.
Yeah. So,
Oh, that's a
and
good-
then when you say like, take the cold shower because it increases your metabolic rate and stuff, that also, like, that could be, because like I think I've said that multiple times about the metabolic rate, and it's like better for your hair and your skin or whatever. But like, I think that's almost like, I don't know if I want to call it a coping mechanism, but it's like you're saying that to yourself because you're like, I know I need to make myself do this, and so I need to show myself some kind of practical benefit for it so that I actually do it. So that's not necessarily the way you should approach it, but I do think that if you're giving something up, because like, why do we enjoy hot showers? Because we enjoy the comfort, and maybe if we're in the shower, it's like peaceful and we're like comfortable in a
It's just
situation.
us feeling warm, comfortable, like a hug of water.
And so if we're giving that up, we're saying like, because I know for me, genuinely, like being in the shower, cranking it all the way up, it's like 1,000,000,000 degrees, and I'm sitting in there and I'm burning up, but it's super comfortable, and I just sit there and I'm just like at peace. And I'm just like, this is the greatest feeling ever.
And then your skin gets red.
It does, but it's a good feeling. So, but maybe if you're giving that up, instead of being like, I'm giving this up just because I enjoy it, don't say I'm giving it up just because I'm enjoying it or I enjoy it. Say I'm giving it up because I trust that God will satisfy my desire for comfort and my desire for peace in some other way. So maybe look at why you enjoy the thing so much. If it's showers, or if it's like sweets, or if it's like watching YouTube or listening to this kind of music, or if it's something completely different. But yeah, that was a really good point. Yeah. And then also, I just want to say, like, Abraham literally says, me and the boy will both come back to you.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, anyway, sorry. But yeah.
We could talk
So
about
my
Genesis
thoughts.
more, but yeah.
Now, okay, so then I guess this sort of pops in my head is, if it, like you said, it's almost an exercise in trust, is really what this is, because you're not giving up the shower just because you enjoy it, but you're giving up the shower because you enjoy it, and you're basically saying, all right, all of these worldly things, these will pass, but there are certain things that won't pass.
Yeah.
And so by taking the desires and the joys of the things that I do have, and by saying, I will allow these to go away, to trust that God will, I mean, really,
So
what you'd be saying, which I guess I've never thought about, is I am trusting that by doing this, it will bear fruit, in the sense of I will come to know you better. So
Yeah.
I will get a deeper connection with you, that actually I'll look back and say, I'm glad that I allowed that to pass, so that I could show I trusted, and then the relationship is deeper. So it's like, okay, let's say I'm married.
Yeah.
And I am playing video games on Saturday nights. And I have a great relationship with my wife all other days of the week, but Saturday nights, it's from 6 to 12 p.m.
Saturdays are for the boys.
Right. Now Saturdays are for the boys. Now that is something that brings me joy. She knows it brings me joy. She's not telling me never play video games again. But if I would say, okay, you know what? Tonight I'm going to put this joy to the side, and I'm going to, even though I would prefer this right now, and it's not like a psychotic prefer, it's just I would like to do this right now. In addition to my life, I'm going to see that this ultimately is not the big picture. This is a part of the big picture. But I will put that to the side and say, hey, would you like to spend some time together? And then she's seeing, oh, I know that you enjoy that, but you're showing me that you want a deeper relationship with me. So we will now have a deeper relationship. And so I think that's what, because I mean, I'm sure I've heard it before, or some people have said it, but it's like, if you don't do these things, you will have a deeper relationship with God. And I guess that never really clicked. But literally, if I'm willing to do this, his promise will be true, of him saying, I am right here. And if you allow that to move, not gone forever because I still want you to have it.
Yeah.
But if you allow it to move, I will move in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing you're saying about like it's not gone forever, it's almost like the thing with Isaac and Abraham where God is asking Abraham to show that he is willing to make the sacrifice. Like if you're married and you're playing video games on the weekends and it's like just you and the boys, like again, like you're saying, your wife doesn't want you to give up video games forever, hopefully. Like that would be kind of, if she did, whatever. But she wants to know that you're willing to give up playing video games for the night to spend time with her. She doesn't want you to give it up forever. She just wants to know that it doesn't take priority over your relationship with her. And so if you show her that I'm willing to do this for you, maybe next Saturday you just play video games again. But she's totally fine with it because she knows that if she asks you to, then you'll give it up. And you won't do it, and you'll spend time with her instead.
And also, you will know it.
And you'll know it, too.
And the love between you two will know it. And I think that's really what the point is.
Yeah, and again, also, you said people always say, if you don't do this thing, it'll grow your relationship with God. I think that's just the wrong way to say it. Just like, because it doesn't really describe that feeling. And again,
it makes it seem like if I do this, I won't have a relationship with God.
Yeah. This is also the first time I'm like really figuring this whole thing out too. So if I can't verbalize this properly, I apologize. But like, it should be something more like, if you are able to, how do I say it? Instead of saying, if you don't do this thing, you'll grow your relationship with God, maybe it should be, if you show God and yourself that you are, if you, I'm struggling.
I think you're trying to make it not a transactional thing.
It's because it's not transactional.
Right, it's relational.
It's relational. It's all about like, you need to prove to yourself
right
that this is more important than this thing. So it's like, if the video games are more important than your relationship with your wife, there's a problem. But they might not be. And it's like, you just enjoy doing this thing, but she might not know that she's more important than that. You just need to show her that you have your priorities straight and that you understand the hierarchy of goods there. So I'm trying to think of just like a one-liner, just like phrase to like replace that. I can't think of like the right way to condense it though.
Yeah. Well, we'll think about it. It might come up in future discussions. Yeah. But yeah, what you were saying is like this hierarchy of goods is actually, I think, a really good thing. Because something I think I said earlier was like, if, I have this vice, so I'm going to give up the thing that lets me indulge in this vice. Like, that's not fasting. Like, you're not giving up a good. You're giving up a bad. Yeah. Which is like, that's not something you give up. That's something you throw away. So to fast appropriately, you have to give up a good, something that is truly good. And by giving up that good, to understand the hierarchy of goods, as you guys were talking about it, you're proving to yourself and showing to God in some way that you understand the true hierarchy of goods. And I think that by fasting and giving something up and understanding this true hierarchy of goods will actually improve how you view that good that you gave up. If you, like, for instance, if you, in this video game wife example, if you're obsessed with the video games too much and your, anniversary falls on a Saturday and you're like, I'm sorry, it's for the boys, I can't, then you have a misunderstanding of the hierarchy of goods. But if you say to the boys, sorry boys, not tonight, tonight's for the wife, then you understand that hierarchy of goods. And coming back to the video game, you understand it's like, I am not beholden to this video game. Like, I am not doing this just because I have to do it. I'm doing this because I want to do this. And it brings me joy.
It's freedom. Really.
It's freedom. And so to give something up allows you to understand and embrace the freedom of it more when you allow yourself to come back to it. To give something up, say like the cold shower example we've been using, because that's a good example of something where there's not necessarily a benefit to it. But to give that up, at the end of it all, understanding that like I appreciate a warm shower.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I know that like I don't need it to survive, but I enjoy it, like I choose to take this shower and to be comfortable. And it's that freedom where it's like I chose to have the warm shower, not like, oh, it's a shower time, so warm.
Like I have to do this.
Like I have to have the warm shower.
And that's how Jesus was like, I came to free you, basically. From
Yeah.
That's what everything. Okay, did you
No,
have
that's
anything
good.
else?
Yeah,
So,
continue.
okay, tell me what you think about this. And came to me as you were talking. So I think one of the things I wanted to flesh out is if we are talking about fasting is giving something up, I wanted to pose this idea that if God is a God of addition, not of a God of taking away, then a way that we can frame fasting isn't giving something up, but adding something more. And so you could look at, if you are addicted to video games, you look at you are losing something if you don't play video games and you go spend dinner with your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can see it as I'm adding something more real as opposed to losing something that I have that is real.
That actually brings a good point to my mind.
I really like that.
Yeah, no, that's really good because, you know, a lot of people look at Lent as you give something up, and you know, one of the things that people say is like, oh, give up social media, or give up this, or give up that, and you need to understand what giving something up actually means. If it's something that is a time sink, giving something up means that you have the time. And you need to fill that time with something meaningful.
Because it creates a vacuum.
Yeah,
if you give it up.
one time
Whatever
I
it
was
is.
like, okay, for Lent I will give up anything computer or like electronic related. So no watching anything, no playing video games, none of that, all of Lent. And that was just what I did. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing it. And then I would find myself just like sitting at my desk, you know, after finishing up homework, just like on the computer, like I can't play video games. Just like click randomly, and then I'm just like a blob.
Yeah.
But like I love reading, so I could have easily just gone downstairs, grabbed a book, and read it. But because my mind was like, I am not playing video games, and then I want to play video games, then I'm not actually recognizing what I can actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is that addition because, you know, yeah, sure, I could subtract away the video games to add on something more deep, more meaningful. Now that's for things that are a time sink. You know, taking a cold shower. I mean, you'll probably take a shorter shower, but it's not the different. Like, you don't need to fill it in with something else, sort of deal. But if you give up something big, like watching YouTube, and you watch YouTube for like 4 hours a day, you can't just say, I'm giving this up and not doing anything. You have to say, and through this time, I will fill it with this, because that's part of the discipline. The discipline isn't just, I can brute force my way through this jungle. The discipline is, I have a knife at my side. I can cut through the things that are in my way. And so it's like, yeah.
Yeah. And so we're saying God is a God of addition, not of subtraction. And then something that I hear people say all the time is boredom is the devil's playground.
Oh, yeah.
So if there's something that you spend a lot of time doing, and you just, like if it's video games, and you just stop doing that thing, but you don't fill that time with anything else, that's not going to be necessarily a good thing. And if you just aren't doing anything and you allow yourself to just be like, man, I really miss playing video games, that's where, like, again, like we were talking about earlier with at the end of Lent, are you just going to start doing it again? And you're just going to go back to the exact same way. So if you don't fill that time with anything that's more productive, first of all, you're not adding anything. And so maybe that's not actually opening yourself up to God, because if you open yourself up to God, he will always give you more, essentially. That sounds kind of like a prosperity gospel kind of thing, but like not in the physical sense, but you know what I mean. Just for anybody out there, if you're giving something up for Lent that takes up a lot of your time, if it's video games or whatever, just because I can't think of any other examples off the top of my head, but don't just stop doing it and then just like sit around and be like, man, I have all this time. Like, because once I deleted Instagram, I started doing that, and I talked to everybody. And I'm like, man, I don't have Instagram anymore. It's like I can't scroll for 5 hours. I don't even know what to do with myself. I have so much extra time, and it's like, yeah, you do have that extra time, but this is just like for myself, just calling myself out. Like, I need to do something with that time. Like if you're being given that extra opportunity to pursue something that will improve your relationship with God, you'll be able to grow in love and everything. Take that opportunity, add something new in that will help you to achieve that goal.
Yeah.
Don't just like stagnate and sit around and wait for Lent to end and then go back to exactly the way you were before.
So I think it's a good transition from, we've been talking a lot about fasting, and I think at some point we should talk about more practical aspects of how to go about Lent, or tips and tricks. But I think it's an intermediate, because what you were talking about made me think of, there's 3 facets to a time of penance. Do you guys know what we call them?
I might know them, but I can't think of them off the top of my
Okay.
head. I don't know exactly what you're talking about.
So the 3 things that we as Catholics are called to do in Lent. It's not just fast. It's not like fasting isn't the point of Lent. Fasting isn't what we're called to do. We are called to 3 things as the
Wait, is it prayer, fasting, and almsgiving?
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I do know it.
Yeah, you do know them. So prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. These are 3 important aspects of Lent. We've talked a lot about the fasting side, so we don't really need to go too deep into that. But when you're saying it's like you have the time, well, you're also called to do prayer and almsgiving. So if you spend 5 hours watching YouTube and you give up YouTube and then you have all that time, well then spend an hour in prayer. And it's going to be hard. But like, addition, prayer is not an easy thing. And in some ways, adding on prayer or some aspect of a relationship with God, and however you want to add it, is just as hard, if not harder, than taking away something and fasting, which is why we have it as prayer and fasting. And then almsgiving, which is a difficult one.
Yeah, we talk a lot about prayer so far in these episodes. So like this is for me too. Like, I don't care if anybody else gets anything out of this. What would you define almsgiving as? Because that's something that I've always kind of like struggled to really have a grasp on, like as far as, because like financially,
Yeah.
you know, it's iffy.
Mr.
But
Google.
how would you define almsgiving?
Yeah. So, almsgiving is charity.
How would you define
The
charity?
practice of giving money or food to poor people.
Yeah, so that's the
But I don't think it's just that.
No.
That's what I.
So
I'm
that's
The
the-
act of giving charity to another.
Yeah. So almsgiving is heavily connected to charity. And if you look in the Bible, on 1 Corinthians 13, which we talked about 2 weeks ago, I think, it talks about what love is. In some translations, it says charity. So charity, in the Catholic sense, understanding, is a synonym for love. And it is a self-giving, which is why, like, you know, charity is a giving. You know, oh, this charity, what does they do? Who do they give to? It's like that's what a charity is. It's a self-giving, and that's why we view love as a self-giving, and so that's why love and charity are synonyms. And so almsgiving is self-giving. And yeah, it's the historical name comes from, you know, giving alms. I don't know where the term alms came from, but like to give a little bit of a pittance, you know, on your way. But that's where like it originated, like for the name, which is what, you know, Merriam-Webster probably said.
Yeah.
But like what it actually is a self-giving. And so if you don't have the money, you are still called for almsgiving. And this is the hardest facet of Lent for a lot of people. For me particularly, I've been trying to figure it out, like how I could add in almsgiving. Because it's not just giving of money, it's giving of self. And so a very good thing is time. You can give your time. And it could be something simple, like I give my time to my family by joining in on the family dinners. Or I give time to my family by actually having time and talking with them instead of just sitting in my room playing video games all day. Oh, hey, there's something I can do when I give up video games. Time. Or to give my time or a labor. So if you don't have the money to give up money alms, you could give up body alms by helping out at the food pantry, moving things around for people, helping out an old lady cross the street, things like that, where you give of self. Like, that's what almsgiving is, and that's charity. And so it's like the three facets: prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Prayer is deepening your relationship with God. Fasting is understanding and awareness of self. And almsgiving is the community aspect of, we are all in this together. And so, like, the three facets of Lent are, the three facets of life. God, and the reason we say this in this order is God comes first, and you can't help others if you don't understand yourself. So it's like God, self, and others, even though others come before whatever. But it's like those are the three aspects, because it's our relationship with God. God is the ultimate end, and we are who we are, and that's the nature. And it is our community with people that forms us more fully. Mm-hmm. And this is, I'm trying to think of the theology of the body as aspects, because we talked about stuff like this. But yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember. I don't know what you're talking about there.
My mind connects dots in weird ways. So
one way that I just thought about it is prayer would be communicating with God. Mm-hmm. Fasting would be opening up to communication with God. And then almsgiving would be communicating with God with the Christ in
through
people.
Others.
Yeah.
The
Christ that's in
I was thinking about it in a little bit of a different way, because I was gonna, before you even were saying the thing about prayer, fasting, and almsgiving in that order, I was trying to think of a way that they could be connected.
Okay.
I would say they should be in that order, which is kind of the conclusion I came to, but for the reason that you were saying, because prayer should be first, because like we've talked about forever, that's deepening your relationship with God. And if you don't have that kind of context, then the fasting won't mean anything. Because again, like we've been talking about the whole time, it's not giving stuff up just to give stuff up. It's giving stuff up in the context of, this will help me to grow my relationship with Christ and to grow in love and all these things. And then almsgiving last, because you can't fully give yourself to others unless you understand what it is that you have to give.
That's a good way of putting it.
So that's basically what you said. I kind of just paraphrased what you were saying.
No, but it's a better way of phrasing it.
Now, I would say something that struck me today in a podcast that I was listening to was, I think I've kind of been in the habit of thinking, if you want to be a loving person, you have to go and, go into yourself, find out what your wounds are, invite healing into that, all of that stuff. But what this guy said, who's Jake Kim, is on a really good podcast. I'll have to send it to you guys. Yeah. Restore the Glory is a fantastic podcast.
I think I've heard about that before.
Very good. And what he said was, perhaps the thing that you need for your next step is actually to go out and be loving to somebody. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, of course, I like the hierarchy too of prayer, kind of goes down the list. But you could think about it in the sense of also, sometimes to wake yourself up to the reality is of a relationship with God is through serving somebody else and then experiencing what it is to be loving. And then you realize, then things wake up in you. And then maybe that's the thing that leads to, I want to fast. I want to spend time doing other things that are more directed towards whatever this realer reality is. And then that leads to a deeper prayer life. Because that's at least been the experience I hear from a lot of people is they were really nice. They give themselves a lot, but then it leads to a deepening, and then it leads to a deepening, and that leads to an intimate interior life with God. So, as with everything, it goes.
It can
go
a bunch of
like
ways.
when we're saying the order of prayer, fasting, almsgiving, that's not saying that one is better.
It's not like a real structure. It's kind of just like,
that's why in Lent we're called to do all three.
It's a trinity.
And not one, then the next, then the next. Yeah, trinity. It's all interconnected. And so let's move on into a practical side of things. How should I pick what to give up for Lent? And just a quick note, because this is going to come out after Wednesday, Ash Wednesday. You can add things on during Lent. It's not like, oh, I missed the beginning, so now I can't. No.
You gotta wait until next
I got to
year.
wait until next year because I missed. It's like, no, add it on. And also, another note, if you fail in something you do, it's not like, I failed. Okay, whatever. No, just keep doing it. Like, you know, failure is a part of life, and you'll fail in something. And so don't let that failure define the rest of your Lent. Just be like, okay, I did not, like, I gave up YouTube, but then I watched YouTube today.
Don't
Well, guess what I'm going to do tomorrow? Not watch YouTube.
Don't let past failures prevent you from achieving future success.
I like it. Yeah. So how should I pick out what to give up or do for Lent?
I don't know. I'm trying to think about it because I know for me, there's just some things where I'm like really, I've spent a long time kind of working on things. I'm kind of like continuing that. So I'm trying to think of like what I would even say.
I think I would like to draw it back to the Saturday nights are for the boys video game situation. Because I think that brings it's a good symbol of the bigger picture. And so let's say you're playing the video game. What you're experiencing is real. Like, let's say, just for fun, in the game that you're playing, it's Sims, and there's a relationship in there. Now, technically, like, let's say there's a relationship. Just hear me out. Let me get to the end of this. There's a relationship in there, and it is real. You are experiencing, like, there's a relationship in the game that you're playing, and you're participating in this game and this community, let's say.
Okay.
So that is real. But then there's a bigger reality. There's a more real reality, which is a relationship with a human person. And so there's a deeper reality that's going on. And so allowing this one to have its proper place as still real, but not the most real thing you have in your real life is to really allow things to be where they are and to be closer to connected to reality. If this real experience in the game is inhibiting a relationship with the real relationship you have, that is something that you should be taking a look at as, okay, how can I turn back towards the real relationship where you have a human connection, which is more fulfilling than the game. There's just a cross that comes with it, but it's always going to be better. I think in the same way, if you take that out the next step, you have a relationship with this person, but there is a more real reality going on the whole time. And it's your relationship with God. And so this relationship with this person is real, and it's a joy, and it's something that's really there. But if that, whatever that is, whether it's a relationship with warm showers or a relationship with candy or a relationship with, I don't know, whatever, reading a book maybe, if you're, if that is something that really takes away from the depths of reality, which is remembering the big picture. Jesus came and died, and now we don't have to stay dead, but he is the way to not have to stay dead. And that's what he's really here for. So he's not saying, give this stuff up to prove that you love me. It's realize the truth. So that's what the renewal of your mind is to have your mind renewed, to realize that for those who have eyes to see, the person that sits across from you has already passed. There is a deeper reality that's going on. There's something way bigger that gives all of this that we're experiencing now life. And so learning to see that is the renewal of your mind. And that's coming into a relationship with God. Like you said at the beginning, you're learning to see that the things that are unseen are real. And so you're allowing the things that you do see to serve those things. Like you're allowing that to happen. And so if the video game, which you see and you're playing and it's fun, if that is all you see, you're missing the relationship with the person. So you have to learn to see the relationship with the person. And you have to be open to it. And that might require you adding on time with that person. And then it goes out to the deeper reality that there's things that we can't see, but that are there and we can experience and be in relationship with. and that takes time. And that's really what this all is about. It's just, here's a slice of time where we're going to do this as a community. We're going to do this together. And it's to celebrate. It's to prepare ourselves, basically to feel that realization. The ache in our heart is that this video game is not the most real thing. And when it's gone, I can feel I'm hungry for something. And then I realize this relationship with this person is here.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I even go deeper to say, well, this also is passing, then I feel this ache of like, oh my gosh, there's got to be something. Then you're open to that relationship with God, which is the most real thing. But prayer is opening up that longing. And so you have to allow yourself to feel that. And you want to feel that because that's the guiding thing towards love.
So with this philosophy, what should I give up for Lent?
Okay, so
But you can say
I'm
something
not going to
first.
say give something up. I'm trying to...
Sorry, the
like-
phrasing.
No,
Rather-
I
let
it's
me
fine.
rephrase.
I just
We
wanna-
should never
'cause there's
say,
something I wanna
what are
add
you
to
giving
it.
up for Lent? Don't ask someone what you're giving up for Lent. Ask someone what you're doing for
What you're
Lent.
doing, yeah. So I'm going to try and like condense that all down to like what I understood it as. So, and as a form of practical advice, maybe. So, and you can tell me what you think about it. Maybe look at the things that you enjoy the most in life. Ask yourself what it is you enjoy about that the most. And then consider, reflect on, meditate on, whatever, what you can do in relation to that thing to direct your desire in the right direction. So if you, like with the video game, if you're playing, goodness gracious, if you're playing the video game because you enjoy the relationship that you have with your friends, you can see that, but then you can see that that's pointing you towards your relationship with your wife. And then you can see that, and you can see that that's pointing you towards your relationship with God. And so you can look at any one thing, and you can see what directions, like if you look close enough and you really think about it, you can figure out what desire it is that that's fulfilling. So I guess maybe it's not giving something up. Maybe it's just approaching it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Or like something that I was thinking about is like we were talking about before we started, like with music. Like I love making music, but maybe instead of just doing whatever kind of music, and I can keep on doing music that's not like explicitly Christian, whatever. But maybe the desire that I have for whatever I get out of music, maybe what I can do with that, instead of just being like, I'm not going to make music anymore. I could be like, okay, maybe I make a song that's pointing me and hopefully other people towards God instead. And maybe I'm directing that in a different direction. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say, what are you giving up? I would say, what are you doing? And to figure out what you should do, maybe that's it's always adding something. But maybe that's giving something up. Maybe that's just pointing something in a different direction. But it's super subjective. It's hard to like give a concrete answer.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's all about making sure that your desires are pointed in the right direction. And so look at what's satisfying your desires. And maybe you don't need to change anything about it. Maybe obviously there's always room for growth. But maybe there's something you don't need to really change.
Yeah.
So just look at everything that's satisfying your desires right now, and try and orient it a little bit more in the right direction.
Yeah, and if you find something that you're like, I really don't need to change this. You don't need to. That's fine.
Yeah.
Do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the reason I am more hesitant on being like, well, you should do this, or you should do this, or you should do this. The main thing I'm trying to at least do for myself or for you guys or whoever's listening is to try to assist in gaining the right mindset, because really it comes down to, this is your relationship with God and it's your life. And so if all I can do is give you a better grasp of where to start with your own discernment, or really how to view what's going on, then it's really, Lent is like, okay, now go for it. Like, try to ask, or just start searching or reading the Bible, or listening to podcasts from people that are good, or spending time in prayer, or doing little things that your heart is called to. Like, if you open up and you ask and you realize sort of what the bigger picture is, then your journey is really figuring out what you can do, like what you want to do, really what you, I guess, not should do, but it's what your heart needs the most.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what Lent is not just, here's the thing to do. It's like, there's a relationship with God waiting for you. Here's an opportunity to grow in that, and here's a way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we feast, I feel like we also don't have any guidelines for how you feast.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we all are worried, like thinking, well, what should I do for Lent? But then feasting, it's like, oh, well, we all know how to feast.
What should I do on Sunday to feast and
right.
enjoy?
Exactly. Because if we're in the church that goes out, it's
the liturgical
fast,
year.
Feast, fast, feast, fast, feast. Then we should have a guideline for both how you properly feast and how you properly fast. And so it's not like, here, go do this thing and then you're going to enjoy the fast or the feast. It's like, there's an entire thing going on all of the time. We're in this time frame. What is really going on? And then your heart will sort of be able to listen to the promptings of the Spirit to show you where it is that you can turn more so to God all the time. And then really you've made it, in a sense, when you have a dark night of the soul, like there are certain saints,
Mm-hmm.
and they describe it as they're completely dark. Like it's because their desires, the world around them, they don't desire it anymore. Like, it's been a purified process, but it's not because they're giving up everything they can just to get to God. It's that they're trying to get to God, and in doing that, they realize the things that they desire are not God. Like the desires we're born with, but they're all pointing us there and directing us there. And ultimately, that union with Him on earth is dark, because it's like, you don't need to see all of this stuff. You don't need to have the warm shower. You don't need it. You literally don't desire it anymore, because you're so freed from it that you just have a relationship with God. And that's complicated. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how it's possible, but that is truth. And that would make sense. And so I think I'm trying to more just give an understanding, or at least what my understanding is now, of sort of where to start. But then really, if you're not sitting and asking, or if you're not praying, if you're not opening to where your heart should go next, based on what we've talked about here, or based on what you might know, or whatever it is, then you're going to miss the point.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So
Can I say something really
Does that make sense?
I think the only thing, I totally agree. I think the only thing I'm trying to do is, like, I know for me, having practical, like, because the spiritual stuff is obviously number one. Like, that's the priority.
Yeah, okay.
But I think that for me, it's like, if somebody tells me, do this thing, I'm not trying to be like, do this thing. But I think if you want to do something for Lent, whether it's giving something up, or you add this habit, you have this habitual prayer, whatever it is, like, I think if you want to do something for Lent, you should look at everything in your life and do something that helps to orient your desires in the right direction, which is ultimately what I think you're talking about, because you're talking about, like, you need to have a desire for God, but you realize you desire these other things. And so I think I'm trying to, like, put it in a more practical sense of, like, just do something that will help to point your desires in the right direction. Mm-hmm. But it's just like, just because I know that I like practical stuff, because it, like, helps the spiritual and, like, psychological aspect of it for me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Can I try to ask a question to extrapolate on that? So I'm a random person coming out of church. I come up to you, Fulton, or you, Michael, and be like, I just listened to your podcast where you talk about stuff, and it's like, I really want to, like, do Lent right. I really want to like, grow in a relationship with God and understand these things and all of those stuff. But like I'm new to this Catholic thing. Like I don't know what to do. Like I want to pray to God, but I don't know how to pray. I want to give stuff up, but like I don't even know what I could give up. And I want to do almsgiving, but like I don't even know what that is. So like could you give me some things and like a list of things, and it's like I'll pick some of the things that I can do?
Okay, perfect. Bill, thank you for coming up to me and asking me. I'm absolutely flattered and very humbled. All that I can really do is give you what I think right now with the limited information I have. But here's what I'm doing. I'll give you a brief reason behind it. So for Lent, I'll be praying the Angelus at 6 a.m., 12 p.m., and 6 p.m. And those are in line with the monks and stuff. Mm-hmm. They do that prayer schedule or one similar to it, but it's to kind of give my day structure outside of just I'll spend an hour praying when I get the chance. It kind of keeps me on the same track where I'm always sort of communicating or praying or calming my heart. And that is what I'm going to do every day for prayer. As far as fasting, the things that I've realized have stuck out as sort of making my relationship with Jesus a little bit more difficult are things like, well, luckily the church encourages us to fast from meat on Fridays. So it's really a delicacy that we get, but I'm going to refrain from it so I can learn to appreciate what it is. And I'm training my body to not just give in when I want things. So I'm not going to eat meat on Fridays. And then another thing is, well, okay, it'll be all right. I like nicotine, and so I've realized, but that's something that I turn to because I like how it makes me feel. But if I take time away from that, then it opens up a chance for me to feel sort of like, what do I do? Mm-hmm. And then I can turn to, okay, if the scripture says that it will give me what I need, then I'm going to try, and I'm going to read until it speaks to me. And I'm going to pray until I feel peace. And if I feel anxious or nervous or worried, I'm going to just use my will to sit in adoration until my heart calms down. And so that's what I'm going to do. And then almsgiving, somewhere I've really seen that I can grow is in the way that I communicate and talk with people. And so I'm going to spend this Lent to try really hard to see the Christ in the other person. Almost in a benefit to me because it's like I want to have a relationship with Jesus. And if Christ is in every person, then I'm going to try really hard. And I'm going to ask to see the Christ in the other person. And that's who I'm going to try to base my interactions with. And so those are ways that I've figured are where my heart's calling me to go. Does that answer your question?
That's really cool. Yeah, no, that gives me some ideas and stuff I want to do.
Well, thanks for coming, Bill. Listen to my podcast. Bye.
Any thoughts?
Yeah. So let me think for just a second. So I think I would give a similar answer to Bill that I gave a second ago. And for me personally, so just one example, we're doing Exodus, and so social media, it's like no social media. And so I delete Instagram, except for when I have to post SPIRE stuff.
That's work.
So don't delete Instagram so
that's
you can follow us. No, but so if I get rid of Instagram, I realize that I'm happier, I have more time, I don't get as weighed down by whatever kind of stuff I see. So and then also, the reason you would have social media in the first place, I think you just have to examine it for yourself. But so I would just say, if you want to know what to give up, you want to know what to do, it's really going to be super subjective. So I don't even want to give examples because it's so dependent on what each individual person, where you're at. But like I said, with social media, it's like, I see this thing and I see that I want an escape, or I see that I want relationship. And I see that I am actually more able to achieve those things without social media. I would just try and find something that helps you again, I'm going to keep on saying it. Just find something that helps you to orient yourself in the desire or in the direction that you need to be oriented in. Like, whether that's giving something up or adding something in, if you need to take time, if you want to say the Angelus every day, if you want to do whatever, like, just find something that helps you to direct your heart towards God. And it doesn't have to be like, if Bill he was baptized a week ago and this is the first time he's ever done anything like this. Like, I would never want to be like, do all these things and I have this whole list here and you just check these off every day. It's like, maybe you do SPIRE for Lent.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Maybe it's like every day you have spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, evangelical. You check off something on each of those boxes every single day. Look at that. Look at the way it all comes back together.
About that. That is, man.
That does go
we're planning on our
I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Why did we not think of that? No, yeah, SPIRE is a great, yeah.
But so, even if it's a little thing, just whether it's spiritual, maybe you only do one. Maybe you're like, every day this week, I'm going to try and do something spiritual. It really just is so dependent on where you're at in your journey, but just do something that orients yourself in the right direction. I don't know. That is so insane that we didn't think about that until
that's
right
actually
now.
a huge lax on our part. Because that is really...
It makes me want to redo the whole
I'm going to
episode.
probably actually do that. I don't know why I haven't thought about that. Okay, that's...
Dang.
Well,
oh my
that's
gosh.
what I'm going to do for Lent, is because I don't do it every day.
Yeah.
I do some aspect, but really
not intentional.
Yeah, it's a very... It is. You're right. It's intentional. It's an act of the will.
I think I'm going to do the same thing, actually, because I try, but I don't like always write it down. Maybe I'll force myself to write it down.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good thing.
Because then it's like...
All right.
We'll make a pact. After we stand up, we're all going to shake hands and we're going to all write this down and we'll have our notebooks.
Okay.
Let's say that. We're going to have our notebooks and we're going to hold each other accountable. And we're all going to bring our notebooks every time.
And actually, we'll challenge whoever listens, if you like this, do this with us this Lent.
Yeah.
You get to pick what you do spiritually. You get to pick what you do physically. But it has to be
written down.
At
the end of the day, what did I do? Or before the day, write down what are you going to do and then check it off.
Or if you just do it during the day, you can do it.
Yeah, that
but
too.
however you want to do it. But yeah.
Have it written down to be accountable.
About that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to Bill too.
This is how you know this is live and totally unscripted.
Yeah.
It's like we did not think about that.
We came 10 minutes before, we're like, I don't have a question. I don't know. But yeah. I'm going to talk to Bill too, because I'm in this group. I was like kind of behind Fulton. I was like getting distracted by some cute girl and whatnot. Okay.
Always. It's always the cute girls with Nick, man.
Okay. Oh, no, I can't think straight.
It's the cute girl. He can't think straight.
Okay. Making him all nervous.
So, like, while Michael was...
He's red in the face.
While Michael was talking about, like, I don't want to give you examples to... I have no such qualms. I'm going to give you as many examples as I can because I think it's actually really good to be, like, almost jealous. Like, I kind of want to do that. Mm-hmm. And, like, to give a bunch of examples, and no, don't do all of them. That's stupid. Unless you're like really capable in doing that. But let's talk about prayer. How can I pray? Rosary every day.
Oh, yeah.
It takes 15 minutes. Find a little booklet. They're everywhere in your church. Or, Mass, daily Mass. Not every day. That's a lot. I mean, unless you can.
That's true.
Do one more Mass every week. That's a good thing. And some of those Masses, you can pray with the old ladies afterwards and pray the Rosary. Oh, shoot, those connect. Because the old ladies love to pray Rosaries right after Mass or before Mass. So for prayer, a big part of prayer is silence. Just spend time silence. At the end of the night, silence to focus on God and do a meditation on the day. How has the day gone? Simple as that. Just how has the day gone? Like, what did I do today? And then you'll think, oh, I was disappointed in that. I was glad about that. If you're glad about something, be thankful. Another prayer, thankfulness. You can write in a little notebook with SPIRE, like SPIRE, and then thankfulness, or like things I am thankful for today. I can't think of more prayer things, but there's all sorts of other examples because you could do all of those things.
Yeah, you just reminded me, and this is something that I feel like at least I don't hit on that much, but really, we have an entire tradition of saints that do this all the time. So I think when I have in my mind of like, just do these things that help you get, you do kind of need practical stuff. Yeah. So there are a lot of prayers that you can find from really good saints that have already done this. Saint Therese of Lisieux, Padre Pio has good prayers.
Yeah.
Fulton Sheen. I mean, who are some saints you guys like? Or just
I don't even know
litanies.
if I
You
can
can do
Yeah,
litanies.
litanies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because really, I think what we don't.
Litanies
like,
are a beautiful thing.
Yeah, like I can't even believe I didn't think, hey, try to go to mass more this Lent, because it really is like we're deepening our relationship, and the sacraments are like humongous grace bombs that you can go participate in, and that's an awesome thing that the church has. So there's a lot of resources. You just have to type it in, add Catholic on the end, and then boom, you will have access to saints who have been doing this, and people have done and repeated. That's what works. They know what they're talking about. They've given their lives to it. You can find communities around that have all of that. So
Yeah.
that was something that you reminded me of that I wanted to say. So sorry.
I'm going to put this out there. If you're a listener, or you two even, if you want a book of like random prayers that you can pray and talk and things, comments, ask me for it. And if you live near me, I'll drive and hand you one of the books that I got. I've recently bought. I have a ton of books that there's things, and it's just like a compilation of prayers, just like random prayers you could do, like for this thing or that thing or that thing. It's like if you want that book, I'll come give it to you for Lent. You can return it afterwards because I like my books. But yeah, when you say litanies are an amazing thing. I have a litany of humility in my shower, just because it's like when I take a shower, I pray the litany of humility, and it's like it's a really cool way to just orient myself.
Yeah, for people who don't know what a litany of humility would sound like, I'll make this real quick, but I know that.
Yeah, just do a couple of these.
Shout out to Joel. I don't know if he's ever heard about these, but
It's just like, I'm
So-
not good enough. Make me better.
No,
I'm
no,
not
no,
good
no.
enough. Make me better.
No.
so this one is so it's let's see. You would be praying and you would say, from the fear of being forgotten, deliver me, Jesus. And a way that I like to phrase it so that it makes more sense in my mind is I'll say, Jesus, save me from the fear of being forgotten. Jesus, save me from the fear of being preferred, or save me from the desire of being preferred to others. Save me from the desire of being esteemed. And so you're basically learning to give up all of your, in this particular litany, it's a form of prayers. It's not meant to just be said, but it's like you learn to bring that into your mind, because we have to change our minds in the ways that we see things. And so litanies and prayers, the rosary, it's a time to meditate, which is it's like taking a warm shower in your brain and in your heart and in your your imaginative faculties.
My favorite part of the Litany of Humility is right at the end, because it's the deliver me. So it's like, from this good thing, deliver me, Jesus. There's like 6 or 7 of them. And then from the fear of this bad thing, deliver me, Jesus.
Yeah.
And then it ends with, Lord, grant me the grace to desire it. And so it ends with, I want to desire this, this, and that.
Yeah.
And the very final thing that it says is that that others may become holier than I, provided that I become as holy as I should. Lord, grant me the grace to desire this. That is true humility, to understand that others can be holier than you. Holier. You're called to be as holy as you can. But the humility says, Lord, I recognize that others will be holier than me. Help them to be holier than me. Provided that I become as holy as I should, because I can't just be like, oh, they'll be holier than me if I just go. But yeah. Anyway, Litany of Humility, my favorite litany. I love it. So that's
The Litany of Trust is another good
Litany
one.
of Trust is a good one. Yeah. And so just Google Catholic litanies, and something that pops out to you, do it every day. It takes like 2 minutes. So that's prayer. Fasting. Here's a bunch of things that I've heard people do. No snacking. No desserts. You can give up social media, YouTube, video games, all the above, whatever. You can give up not sleeping correctly and get 8 hours of sleep every night. You can give up sleeping in and waking at your first alarm. That's like there's a name for that, but I forget. But like, wake up at your first alarm. Do not hit
Don't
snooze.
snooze it, yeah.
Do push-ups every morning. physical. Do push-ups every morning to get your heart pumping and whatnot. Like, consistently do that. Other things you could, I'm blanking on more things, but just like along those lines, just something. You could give up not reading things of the saints. Read cool things from the saints so that you can learn how to pray more.
Give up not reading.
Actually,
Isn't that just adding it though?
Yeah, but that's what's funny.
but fasting is like I fast from the not
Okay,
readingness.
okay.
I like putting it that way. And then almsgiving. This is the hard one for me. But like tithe to your parish. If you haven't been tithing, we are called to like tithe 10% of our income to the church, because the church needs like our churches need money to provide air conditioning and heat when we go there for mass and this and that, and to do all the services. And it's just good to give. So give money to charity or whatnot. Like it can be hard, but you could do it. I need to do that myself. That's really
I don't
hard.
do it either. I know it's like
If you're young and you don't have an income, yeah, you don't need to tithe.
Yeah.
But other forms of almsgiving, find a service opportunity near you. Google Catholic Service Opportunity St. Louis. I need to do this because I want to do that. And do something. Give up your time to go help a food pantry or do this or that thing or clean up a street or clean up a river or whatnot. Just give your time. Almsgiving, smile at people. Open the door for them.
this is all evangelical.
Yeah. Almsgiving is evangelizing.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. So anything that is evangelical, it's like that's almsgiving. So like smile at people, open the door for them, call your mom, call your dad, call your friend who's really struggling with his life. 'Cause you know he's struggling, and it's like you gotta call him. This is also things that I really struggle with. So I'm like, it's like all of these, like just do something for another person. Like every day, just be like, I'm gonna do something for another person, and make the decisions. Like I know I'm gonna see this person today, so I'm going to do this for them. Make your bed for your brother. I don't know. I was once given that as a penance. When I was like 12 or something, I went to confession, and my penance was, do something nice for your brother. So I'm like, he's out of the room. Quickly made the bed. I'm like, that's nice. Like make a bed for your brother, or
Make
Make
bread
bread
for your
for your
mom.
make bread for your mom.
There you go.
But like,
Those are really good. Yeah.
yeah. And also, it's not Lent. Well, it will be Lent when you watch this. We stop for like 10 minutes. You can undo the like giving up YouTube and on YouTube search things I can do for Lent Catholic, and watch videos from people who suggest things. Yeah, those are my thoughts on the.
No,
Perfect.
yeah, that's all really good.
I think that brought it down.
Do
there.
all of them all the time. Spend 24
Every
hours.
single one of them.
No.
Have an Excel spreadsheet, and then you just like have all of them in there, and
If you're not used to it, do one small thing for prayer, one small thing for fasting, and one small thing for almsgiving, and maybe one large thing that can be any of those. And I think that's a really good way of doing it. Small, easy things that it's not that hard to do, but it still is a little hard. And then one hard thing that's like, this is what I'm focusing on this
just do SPIRE and go higher.
do SPIRE.
I
Go
would
higher.
say, yeah, do SPIRE. That's pretty good.
That's good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
It is. All those fit in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do. And so it's like, well, what do I do for an intellectual today? It's like, now you have some ideas.
Well, because really that is, instead of thinking that you're just, when the vacuum appears after you give something up, replace it with the corresponding SPIRE.
Oh, another good one. Journal.
That's a good
I hate journaling. It is terrible. I hate it.
Me too.
But I've started doing it for Lent the past years, and it's such a good thing. I never do it anywhere else, really, because it's still, I hate it. It's so rough. But like, it has done good. And I do actually sometimes look back at my old journal. It's like, oh, you idiot. How did you think like this back then? But if any of you guys ever read my journal, I'm sorry.
That's probably never.
You
gonna
see a lot of stuff about, oh my goodness, cute girl.
Man, making the girls, dude.
I don't know why I'm
Nick
saying
is
so
down
much of
bad
this.
for somebody. I want to know who
But-
it is, dude.
But like, yeah, no, journaling's a good thing. Do it every night and use that SPIRE. Those are 5 of your lines. Beginning of your journal, ask what I did for spiritual, what I did for physical.
Yeah.
And maybe for Lent, do we want to, when we come to do the podcast.
Start
We
with
have-
S.
The what?
Start with S.
No. We say what we've done for Spire this past week.
Okay.
Just briefly.
Yep.
fine.
I like it.
Just like
Fine.
to
like it.
one of the days from the past week where you had your SPIRE that you put down because we're going to do the handshake thing to submit ourselves to that.
Yep.
And
We'll do it on
we share
camera so that
at the
everybody
beginning
sees.
just this is my spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and evangelical from one of the days this week.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah, cool. That was totally outside of this.
Okay.
Anyway, we should do. All right.
Let's do it.
So everyone, put your right hand here. Ready?
No, triangle.
Now fold in. There we go. Okay.
We're doing
All
it.
right. It's solidified.
All right. So now I have 5 lines in my journal that I can do easily. Sometimes it's hard to. Yeah. All right.
Seth,
Sweet.
if you listen to this, you can hold me accountable. I know you love doing that. So,
All right. Well, in conclusion, any final thoughts?
no, I'm good.
Lent is not a
Okay
time of
with that.
depression. It's a time of growth.
Yep.
And it hurts sometimes.
But only because you're growing. Hopefully. Ideally. That is
Yeah.
what should be happening.
Yeah. All right.
You want to take us home?
I'll lead us off in prayer. In the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord, this time in Lent, help all of us throughout the world recognize the true good of this world, the true goods of this earth, but most especially to recognize your presence in our lives and to direct ourselves to you through the goods of this world and through others. And we pray that these observances that we are holding throughout this Lent, we may stick to, and we may understand why we are doing them. And when it hurts, we may understand why it hurts, so that we may direct that suffering, that pain, to your cross, whom you suffered and died for us. And we pray that through these 40 days, we may come to experience great joy in Easter. For at your resurrection, that we may be resurrected from these pains that we will be experiencing, to live in your joy, in relationship with God, which is what we all long for. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
All right. This has been the SPIRE Podcast. I'm Fulton,
I'm Nick.
And I'm Michael.
and we will see you next time.
When you did Spire. Ooh, also, sorry.
Go ahead.
Comment what you've done for Spire one day each week. It's a challenge to you.
There we go. Challenge.
I
like
some
it.
interaction.
Put that at the beginning of the video so that people.
This is
actually
what
see it.
Drew said he did for Spire this week. Let's
Drew, the
analyze
only
it
one who
and
gets
mock
the end of
him.
These episodes.
All right.
All right.
Peace out.
Peace.